How's that?
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so what I'll do is in terms of, I'll take a few notes. So every now and again, you're going to see me looking down here, but that's just me typing, making sure I'm retaining the info. But what I'll do before we properly start is I'll actually do your intro at the end. So I'll do that later. So,
Okay.
But making sure I pronounce your name, it's Eyong Enoh.
Yes, correct.
How's that? Yeah, a bit English sounding, but you've been in the UK, so it's all good. Yeah.
I think you pronounce it much better than most people have done.
Oh, right. Okay, I'm taking that as a positive.
Yeah.
Well, look, Eyong, I got to say thanks for joining me today on the show. Really, I really do appreciate you taking the time out of what seems to be a very busy schedule to come with me today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Ryan.
Yeah, great. Actually, the pleasure really is all mine. And what interests me about sort of, our conversation is, your early beginnings, from the path you had to take to be a footballer and breaking a lot of ground as well, in terms of where you played and been some of the first to do certain things. And then really thinking about how, your transition, the path from a footballer and, just picking out some of the things. When did those thoughts start for you? When did you start putting the paving stones in place to enable you to begin your transition? So yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. So thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you so much, Ryan. I'm really excited. From the first previous conversation we had, I'd been like looking forward to have this sit down with you and get to talk a little bit more deeper.
Yeah, brilliant. And so look, as I do with many of my guests, I like to go back and think about where the career started and looking at, man, what was sport for you at 10 years old? What was going on and where were you?
Well, for me, 10 years old, I was into sports, but not soccer, as you would say, or football in Africa. I would say I was very athletic. I grew up watching a lot of karate movies, so I would say I was I was looking at Bruce Lee as one of like those people that I was excited watching his movie, his athleticism, his physique. He wasn't the biggest, the tallest, but you could see that he was someone very firm. So I admire him a lot. So from 10 years, I tried learning karate in my backyard. I didn't go to a typical karate school. So karate was one of those things. I was also passionate about gymnastics. Okay. Or acrobatics, as we'll call it in Africa. So we would play around the environment. I would climb up some walls or some trees, and then I would try to do a flip and land and land out. So these are things from 10 years I was more engaged with, karate, gymnastics, and a lot of dancing. I love dancing also. These were the early days where you had break dance, and Michael Jackson was like kind of my, person that really inspired me in dancing. And I think I was also interested in arts like drawing, painting. And these are things I would spend my time home doing this. For drawing and painting, well, my mom, I would say, or my parents were not versed with creative children. So my mom literally one time when I should have been focused on my studies, I was busy taking books and just replicating cartoons, a Turtle Ninja book. I would buy a plain book and just replicate the whole drawing. And it took a lot of time to do that. And it was so excellent and I loved it. But my mom was so hard on me. She said, like, because of you drawing all the time, you didn't do well in your academics in your school. So I don't want to see you drawing. And for me, that was a shame, because probably I would have developed my arts more, and I stopped. So these were the things that I grew up in terms of sports or athleticism. I was busy with karate, gymnastics, and dancing, and probably drawing. Football was not in the picture. So I remember at that age, one time I went around some other young kids who were playing soccer. They looked really good. And the best position they could put me in is in the goalpost. So they say, you know what, we don't think you can play. Just go in the goalpost and try to catch the ball. So that was the beginning for me in terms of looking at soccer. But I always admired, and I felt like I wasn't talented. And probably also the environment where I was, soccer was not like a big thing. It was just those who knew how to play, they played it. So there were more other things. I had guys who gymnastics. So that was it. The click for me was when we changed city.
Right.
When we moved city at past 10, I was probably around 14 at that time, 13, 14. And the city I went to is in the southwest region of Cameroon. The city is called Tico.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm a guy who was doing gymnastics. I was dancing. I loved karate. But I got to this city and nobody danced.
Right.
No kids of my age group were dancing. No kids of my age group were interested in doing karate or to do gymnastics. So I looked very odd among them. All the kids around will gather and only play soccer, play football, play football. Everywhere you turn, football, football, football. So I said, okay, one day let me give a try. Let me jump among them. Like they laughed at me in the start, but just because I think I had this natural ability when I put my mind on something to be able to just go at it. And that's how I started playing soccer from 13, 14. And the rest is history.
Yes, it is, but a good hit as well. But that's so interesting. You know, football wasn't that passion at 8 years old, 10 years old. That wasn't something you looked forward to.
No.
So at 14, it really kicks in. So what got you know, you mentioned moving city, and then it sounds like football came into it. What happened to your academics at that point?
Well, when football came in my academics, it was different because we played football after school. So it was more like get out of your house, and it's just like every African community. After school, you go out and you play. And then that also got me into the school had a football team. So the more I played during the sports hour and the football team, the more I just stayed around those guys, just looking at them, running with them, I started to pick up. And so my academics wasn't threatened at that age. Probably later on, when I was in a bit in a conflict between getting more serious with my university studies because it was demanding, and then really playing very competitive football, probably around 17, when I was being selected to play with the first division team.
Yeah, and what was that process like?
Very challenging, very challenging. There was no model. So the most difficult thing was that there was no model. The area I came from, because in Cameroon, you've got the French Cameroon section and you've got the English speaking Cameroon section. The English speaking Cameroon section, most parents are very academic driven. So where I was growing up, I knew of a lot of talented players whom their parents were so hard on them that they had to stop playing football. Reason being, there was no structure, there was no clear framework where you could see the future of that child. It's not like here in Europe where you say a child goes through Ajax Academy and then makes it professional. We didn't have all of that. Most of the kids who were engaged in football, probably they got injured along the line. Right. They didn't have the resources to do that. And then now they were out of school. So for most parents, this was a lost case. It was a waste of time. And it's difficult to do that. So for me, I was in that situation where I had to choose between like really getting into a professional setting with my academics, or I was going to jump in on the train and take the risk with my football career so that I don't miss the window. But it was tough because my parents were not for it. Those who were around me, they were not for it. But I knew that I was smart at school, and I knew that I could always study any other time. But for the football talent and career is on a small window. And if I don't take advantage of it now, probably later on, I don't want to have regret. So I took the risk.
Yeah.
I went up to my first degree and then I just stopped it and I continued playing.
Okay. So talk to me then about the football that you were playing. Where were you? Are you still at this age, 17? Are you still in Cameroon, or, you know, where is your football?
Yes, I'm still in Cameroon. So I started around, like I said, from 13, 14. I started to play the youth tournament, and it went so fast for me because I really progressed so fast because I was really focused. I was really disciplined. We had a lot of talented kids, very talented, but they were not disciplined. So I put a little bit more discipline with the talent I had. And my people started to take notice of me really quickly because I would do extra running, I would do extra training all by myself. just like I was determined with dancing, determined with karate, it's the same determination I put also. And from the youth football, I was scouted to the first division team. And during that course of time, the first division team, I was the youngest player there. And then I also had to couple it with my academics. And I was fortunate around that period. I was also scouted and selected into the under 18, the A17 and under 18 national team of Cameroon. So a lot of things went really fast. At the same time, at the university, because we had the university games,
Yeah.
and I also participated in university games, and you had the football technical directors that will come in school competition to scout players. So at my school level, secondary school, I played, they saw me, and I was selected into one of the development football academy in the zone. I was among the best. And then also with the university games, I was also selected into the junior national team, which is the under 20. To play some certain competitions. So all of these different exposures helped me to hone my craft and develop and get more experience and become better.
Yeah, brilliant. And it sounds like there was a real strong focus from you there at that point. How did you recognize it was such a small window? In order to turn pro? What influences did you see to make you feel that?
Well, one of the influence was, there were, like I said, I grew up, my uncle was a footballer. And he's the person who took me to the stadium. I wasn't interested in football, but I loved football. I wasn't playing it myself. So probably around 5 years old, my uncle was playing in the first division team. He took me to their club. Like, they slept overnight. And no kid ever went with a football club to sleep overnight. But he took me and I slept with them. I saw how they lived. The day of the game, they brought a small jersey, a football jersey kit, a kit of the team, a smaller one, and they I wore it. And then when they take the picture of the first 11, I was there with the team. So I took a picture also with them. So probably there was already a seat zone, which I didn't recognize then, which he allowed me to have it. But he got injured while he was playing, and he fractured his arm. And I think that period was very challenging for him because the team did not respond. They didn't have the resources to help him. So it was all by himself. And that really frustrated my mom. My mom was so hard on him and said, you need to stop this football. I'm going to get you a job. So that's how his football career stopped. And then now his football career stopped. And then now for me, I've had this experience, and then now I'm going to be playing football at a certain level. How is that going to be now for me? He's not really going to be. Is he going to support me? Is he going to say, you know what, it's too risky, stop this because of my experience, and maybe you should get your academics in order? So it was quite tough. I would say I was kind of all by myself. I didn't get the support that probably kids in other places get, because my uncle would not want me to play because of his experience. He would prefer me to get my academics in order before maybe thinking of, all right, now you have your certificate, you have your something you can do. Maybe football is a trial. And for my mom, my dad also, they were like, you know what, you need to go get your first degree. We want you to get a job, because football here, doesn't really pay that much.
So, okay. I mean, that's really interesting and very grounding to, have had to go through that, seeing your uncle playing in the first division, but injury essentially stopping him from playing. So that helped you to go to pursue your first degree whilst actually playing. What is your first degree in?
I did the medical health sciences. So
wow.
my dad actually, he always wanted to be a doctor. So growing up, he didn't have the resources. He didn't have a sponsor. And he had to do some trade and push himself and get a scholarship to educate himself at school. And so he always felt like, because he didn't have someone to support him in his academics, he would love his son probably to fulfill that dream. But he had a dream for me, which was not necessarily the dream I had for myself. So the closest I could get to studying medicine was to do medical science, because I was good at biology, I was good at chemistry, I was good at science in general. So that was a good basis for me. Even sports, even the sports that I was engaging in, it's just good to have an overall knowledge of the human body, how it works, how it functions, and the different nutrients you need. So that foundational studies helped me to look after my body, discipline myself, understand how I needed sleep, how the muscles, they recover, the food I have to eat. So that was the basic for my education. I did medical health sciences.
That's great. And so once you'd achieved that, it seems like that enabled you then to pursue, full-time, mentally and physically, in your becoming a footballer.
Yeah. Yes, it did. It did. For me, like, that was my past. I told them, listen, I've gotten at least a degree. Let me go after this dream. And of course, the fact that I was going all by myself, it's not like I was depending on anyone. So I took my adventurous risk to move on the journey.
And so what was that? Where did you go? What did you do?
Interestingly, I made several moves, which are kind of unorthodox, a kind of path that is strange. So I was playing in the first division, and the first opportunity I had was to go to Burkina Faso. Mm-hmm. Burkina Faso is another African country. And while I was playing the university game, an agent from France, he was working in Burkina Faso at the time, and also a kind of scout for Lens Football Club in France. So he came over, he heard about me from one of his wife's brother, who talked about me a lot. Because during the university game, I won the Best Player Award, which was given by Roger Milla at the time.
Very cool.
So that was very special to know that Roger Milla gave you the Best Player Award. So he invited me over to Burkina Faso as an easier means to be able to get to Lens Football Club in Europe. So I went there, played the season. At the end of the season, I was hoping that probably I'm going to travel, but I didn't. It delayed. They took some other players. So I gathered the experience I had there for over 7 months. I came back to Cameroon, played with the first division team again for 1 season. And then I had another opportunity to go to Cyprus. Right. But this time is not the Cyprus which is in Europe. This is the Cyprus which is around, they call it Turkish Cyprus. This is around the North Cyprus. It's under Turkey. And there was a guy in my city who had played there, who came over the city and was asking, I'm looking for the best player in the city. And everybody, because they nicknamed me, my nickname was Veron. So everybody called me Veron, because they said my style of play was similar to Johann Sebastian Veron. Okay, yeah. And everybody said, Veron is the player. You need to see him. You need to take him. But he had never seen me play. So he only spoke with me and said, you know what? I would like to take you over to Cyprus. And it was kind of, I hesitated a lot because I was thinking, most of my peers were playing in the junior national team. They're playing in Central Europe, in France, in Germany. Some of them are playing in Switzerland. Some of them are in Belgium. What am I going to do in North Cyprus? And it's not even a professional league. It's like an amateur league. And I'm already in the junior national team. I'm already playing a national team player, first division. And this first division is a higher level than there. Why am I going there? But anyway, I said, let me give it a try. In my mind, I was thinking, since it's North Cyprus, they are connected to Turkey. And at that time, a few Cameroonian players and some Nigerians had done well in Turkey. You had Jeremy Jitab had played in Turkey, and his coach he played with in Fenerbahce took him to Real Madrid when he went there. And then you also had Jeje Okocha who had played there. You had Sami Appiah who had played. So there were a lot of African players who were doing well. So my goal was, okay, go there, play well, and if you can get the opportunity to go to Turkey, that would be a good step for you. Yeah. So I played the first season and I was the best player. And then an agent who is from South Africa, who is Turkish, who came to North Cyprus for holidays, heard about me all over the place. And he said, you know what, there's a club in Cape Town and the coach is a Turkish coach. I think he would like to see this player. So that's how he took me and brought me to Cape Town, and I did some trials with Ajax Cape Town. Yeah. And that was a step that did well, was best player of the league. And I had the opportunity to go do trials in Ajax Amsterdam. So you see how the journey is, I say it in a smooth way, but the real day-to-day experience is not as smooth as I just said it. Was not as smooth as I just said it.
No, I'm sure it wasn't. And who were you traveling with? Who were you with?
So My first trip to Cyprus, not Cyprus, I traveled with this agent guy, the guy who took me from Cameroon. His name is Divine, Sum Divine. And
from a family perspective, I mean,
no, nobody. I told you I was all by my own. But I'll give a quick something here, and that's why it's so important for young men with godfathers. I think it's so important. I wanted to touch on that because it is the influence and the role my dad played when I was growing up that gave me that courage and boldness to be able to go chase my own dream and to make my own life. Probably around when I was hitting 15 to 16, I had a conversation with my dad. So he called me over and then we're talking. And he said to me, you know, son, by the time you get to 17, 18, I would like you to leave my house. And that was quite strange. You know, I was taken aback. In the cultural context where I come from in Africa, you had people, young men who were struggling, who had stayed home till probably about 30 something. They were not married. They were still dependent on their parents because things were rough. Some grew from really poor background. So for a dad to tell a 16-year-old, it's not like Europe, like 18 years, you are independent, that you have to leave my house and be on your own. I was feeling terribly bad. I was like, maybe I did something to offend him. He wants to send me out of the house. And he gave me a week to reflect over that statement. And after he called me back and we sat down and he said, have you thought about what I said to you? Then I blew up. I'm like, Dad, what have I done? Why are you sending me out of the house? Have I offended you? And he just looked at me and he smiled. So he asked me a question. He said, son, if you woke up today and I'm no more, what will you do with your life? I was like, okay. He said, the reason I'm preparing you for life is because someday I'm not going to be around and I want you to be a man on your own. I want you to chase your own dreams, to go after your own dreams. And I want you to start thinking out of the house because you're not being raised to stay in the house. You're raised to go out there. And that's what real men do. They go out, they chase their dream, and they become themselves. So that conversation set me up. Although I was still at the house at that age, but my journey of football was myself going out to explore. And when I had experiences, I would come back, I would talk with him. He would give me his wisdom. And he said, I want you to be your own man. I want you to be your own man. So that was what helped me. Traveling without family was not a problem. I was already a man on my own in my mind and to take on the experiences of life.
Wow. Well, that's a good baseline for you, right? Like you say, it gave you that confidence, boldness to step out there by yourself.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. And so, you know, you were just saying you joined Ajax. This is a new country. This is a new culture. You're in Amsterdam. You're in Europe. Mid 2000s that you're there. This is
2008. Yes, correct.
This is a good time for Ajax. So, yeah, for you being there, but something quite special. Were you the first Cameroonian player to play at Ajax? Yeah.
Yes, correct. First Cameroonian player. Yes, correct.
Yeah, and look, how was that experience for you? How was the difference from where you grew up to where you even played in Cyprus in Cape Town? What was it like for you arriving in Ajax with that move, the first Cameroonian? What was going through your mind?
It was all like I was watching a movie. It was like I was dreaming. It was like unreal. It was so real. Like, is this real? Is this real? But when I kicked off playing football back in Cameroon, while other young kids had talent and they were playing just to enjoy the game where they were, I was playing with a dream. I played and trained with the dream of playing top professional football one day. And so that dream drove me. And so I was surprised how quick it went from really North Cyprus, South Africa to Amsterdam. It was a huge step. I didn't just make a step to another smaller club in Europe. Like this Amsterdam, this is one of the giant clubs in Europe. So that was really a big shocker for me. And at the time, the coach I met there was Marco van Basten, who was a football legend. And he was my coach. And he's under him, I did the trials, and he called me and said, I want to sign you. So all of that was moving so fast that I was trying to catch myself. But again, when I go back home in hindsight and I look at my journey from Burkina Faso to Cyprus to Cape Town, I felt like all of these movements, all of these experiences were preparing me for the big stage. It is all of those experiences, playing in Africa, playing in Turkey, playing in Burkina Faso, in Cameroon, in youth competition. Now I'm in Amsterdam. And that's why it helped me to quickly adapt football-wise, because in Cape Town, it was the same football philosophy, the same football strategy, the same patterns in passing and movement. So that helped me. But cultural-wise, my dad also introduced me to reading. So the reading part he introduced me to, I remember one of the first book he bought for me to read. It's a book, it's a Tom Sawyer book. I don't know if those who are following up will remember Tom Sawyer, but you had Tom Sawyer. It was a book for young people. It's more about adventure. And also another book was Huckleberry Finn. So these two books that he bought for me gave my mind an explorative ability to be out of the box. Like for me, I was just like a Tom Sawyer on an adventure. And being in Holland was another discovery. It was another experience, the language, the food, just exploring. So it's about me exploring life at different levels. So I think these things, this foundation prepared me. So when I came to Holland, yes, the weather was quite cold, which was a shock. The peoples also were different, but I think I had the basis, the educational basis I had, the reading culture, which I had, all of this kind of, made it easier for me to adapt with people, to flow. And I didn't get this cultural shock, like, oh, where am I? Why are these people like this? It was just a flow. It was easy for me to really flow into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then look, you had a wonderful time there, and it would seem, in terms of on field over 100 games and some great highs, lows as well, I guess, as a player.
Yeah.
But then also, getting called up or, going to World Cups, talk to me about that. I never had the privilege of going to a World Cup, being vice captain for my country. I mean, what were those like for you?
Oh man, like my experience in Ajax, kind of similar, is all happening in the same period. So the same year I signed for Ajax 2008, in just a couple of months, I'm playing the Europa League with Ajax against Marseille, and I score a goal. And this is a big boss in Cameroon. There are people who are arguing that is me. There are others who are arguing it's not him, because some people he's playing for Ajax Cape Town in South Africa. They say, and others say, no, he's now playing for Ajax Amsterdam and he's playing Europa League. And at the end of the day, they have to go watch the video and they say, no, it's real, it's him. And people start to talk about it. And at that time, the national team just finished the Nations Cup 2008, and we lost in the final against Egypt. And we started playing some qualifier matches, and the results were not good. So the fans started to say, no, we need some freshness in the midfield. We need some freshness because we feel like the players who are there, they are good, but they are starting to look rusty. And so that's the opportunity I have now to show myself in this competition. And everybody starts saying, we need the journalists, the media, we need to call Enoh. We need to call Enoh in the national team because we see he's doing well, he's fresh. And then I got the call up just the start of the next year, 2009, in the national team. And there's like, wow. I was just more than happy to be called up. That was it for me. Like, just be called up and have this experience to be in the same environment with these football legends that I've been watching from a distance. The Rigobert Song, the Samuel Eto'o, the Jeremy Gitap, the Carlos Kameni. So these are all legends. And just to dream that I'm going to be around them, training with them, like, this is unbelievable. Like, I need to touch myself to know that this is real, but then they start to remind me that you're playing at the top level. You've come this far, so you've earned it. And for you to be called here, you've got the quality. So you also need to start seeing yourself that you've got what it takes to be part of this.
How do you do that? How does one do that?
So that's where you have now leadership, and then you have older players who facilitate the other players. So when I came into the national team, I went to greet some of the older players, went to their room to greet them. And I remember the captain at the time, Rigobert Song, after we did some training and we also played a friendly game, he called me. So this was his very simple statement he made to me. He said, most of the young guys, when they come here, they're excited to be here that they don't get focus. He said, but I see you are excited, but you are also focused. And then he said something interesting. He said, if you keep this focus, I can bet you, I've looked at you, you're going to be one of the captains in this team. So probably the thing was, I was just being me, and that's what he saw. I didn't try to be something else or try to impress or try to be another person. But they could see that from probably from some of the other young players who were trying to feed him. For me, it was just outside the field, I'm the coolest guy, but on the field, I don't look at anybody's face. Like, it doesn't matter what if it's Etoh, if it's Song, if I'm going with the ball, I'm going full percent because that's why I came, to give everything. But after that, I'm the coolest guy that you can have around you. So he facilitated these players having this conversation, gave me the liberty to be able to express myself and be myself. And I think that's why it's important to have players like that in every team, every national team, to give the confidence, you know, the liberty for young players to express themselves how they ought to.
And is that a role that you got to play for the youngsters?
Yes, I did. I did that a lot. The team that went to win the African Nations Cup in 2017, I had played a role of like captain leadership from 2014 World Cup, or before that. A lot of the young players today, you have the Vincent Abubakar that you see, that a lot of people that is captain in the team. It was a lot under my leadership. I spoke to him a lot, took him a lot from 2010 when he was first called up. Andre Onana, who you see now doing, you know, his first call up in the national team, he came and I really helped him. So most of the young players, they saw me as someone they could come to, they could rely on, they could come for advice, they could feel free and be themselves around. Yeah. So I think that role, I also, because I received it from Rigobert Song, it became easy for me to also give it naturally to the rest of the young players that came to the team.
Yeah, I bet it was. And that's, I mean, that's fantastic. You were able to do that nationally and certainly domestically in your club football. And yes. And so, you know, as you went through your career, your football career, you know, it's the point I get to everybody. At what point did you start to realize, or did what occurred to you that at some point you wouldn't be playing football for all of your life?
That's an interesting question, Ryan. I don't know about other players. Probably for some of them, it comes earlier. But for me, it really came in 2018, I would say. 2018, I just finished my contract in Standard Liège, actually closing into 2017. I played my last season there, and I was still in the national team. And I had a lot of offers. I had an offer in Russia, I had an offer in Saudi Arabia, I had an offer in the Premier League, I had an offer in the USA as well. So I was thinking, but I had a plan with my family to move over to the UK. And so the goal was to get a team in the UK, move with the family there, settle. And that affected the choices I had to make with clubs. So I wanted to be around them. I had been in Belgium, they had been in the UK, but it was about time that I stay around because now they're growing up and they needed me around. And so we turned most of the offers around. I turned them down, like Russia and this, and then the UK market, transfer market closes later on. And so those clubs were in conversation with the agents, and 2-3 of them, and everything was certain that I was going to sign for one of them. And then towards the end of the window, after I've closed all the other ones down, the clubs, they didn't respond back. So probably I was already 28, getting to 29. So probably they decided to go for younger players, probably players they took on loan from other clubs like Arsenal or some other clubs like Man United. And for them, this is better business. The players are young, they take them in, they have, but I was already 29. So that was a big shock. For the first time in my career, I was going to be home. Not reason that I'm injured, not reason that I didn't play a good season, but that the transfer window didn't go as I planned. And now I'm going to stay 6 months home without playing because you can't play nowhere else. Secondly, after you stay 6 months and you explain that story to any club or to any agent, They don't understand how you, a player who's international, has this CV, can be out for 6 months without a club. That already puts a certain stigma on it. They start to watch out, they're careful, like there should be something that happened that a guy is out for 6 months. That incident was a trigger for me that made me know that, yeah, this thing wouldn't last forever.
That's a way to find out.
It wouldn't last forever. Like it was bad. It was a tough way for it to happen, but that's how it came. You know, it dawned on me then.
Yeah, right. And you're out for 6 months. How did it feel?
Awful. I was like a fish out of water. So like I'd been in this bubble. Like in my book, I talk about the balloon bubble. I'd been in this football bubble, competitive bubble, professional bubble for years. And the highs, not just at any level, but at the highs. Mm. And how do you start explaining to someone that you play for national team just a couple of months, you've played almost Champions League with Standard Liège, you won the trophy that same year, and you were going to take another move, and there were a lot of interest, and then now you don't have a club with your CV. What's wrong? What's going on? So that was hard, professional-wise, mentally, emotionally. That was hard. And then now I also had to face another reality, which was I'm going to be home for the first time with the kids for this long. I've never done that before. So I'm going to be experiencing the day-to-day stuff that my wife has been dealing with. That's another rude awakening. You can do that for a week. It's exciting because you say, oh yeah, you can do that for 2 weeks. It's exciting. But when you're going to hit that for 2 months, 3 months, same routine, and you're not used to it, there's a whole different pressure it's putting in your brain and putting in your mindset, in your physique, that you're not used to dealing with that. So it was quite hectic. I found myself waking up some morning quite angry, and I couldn't really put a finger. Why am I this angry? Just being upset, sometimes not motivated enough, and so I would have to push myself to wake up early in the morning to go do running, just to get the adrenaline pumped up before I do anything or talk to anyone. I need to get myself active. So I was doing a lot of running in the morning, running to keep just that energy. And that's the biggest frustration, because you are in a career where you're always on this adrenaline ride every time, training, playing, moving, preparing for game. And then you just get into a stop for 6 months. It's like they cut you off. They cut off the light. Yeah. Now that adrenaline preparation that has been keeping you going, you stop it for 6 months. That's like a seizure. Like your whole system goes through a shock. And that's, I say, 2 weeks is okay, his body's resting. But when it's over 2 months, then it's unusual. So it was really tough mentally for me. But that was the blessing I had, is that I had my wife who was very supportive. That, you know, she could really be there for me, and since I'm a kind of cool guy, that more quiet guy, I don't really express my stuff that much out there. She was the only person I could really talk to that much, how I really felt, and yeah, it's a great blessing to be surrounded by people who can just encourage you and stand with you during such period.
And so during that period, you know, you mentioned that was the time where you started to realize this is, you know, football will end at some point.
Yeah.
What did you do? What were the first steps that you made?
So the first step I made, I was having back-to-back conversation with my wife, just doing a retrospect on my career, things that probably I could have done better, I could have done different. And in my mind, then I started to say to myself, if I were to stop my football career today, what would I do? And I realized that I didn't know. So the first thing I did was I panicked. I'm like a young man who is not a specialist in delivering baby, and then I meet a case that I need to deliver a baby. I'm not trained for it. I wasn't prepared for it. So it's like it caught me unaware. I always thought I was a smart guy. I always thought I was a cool guy. I always thought, okay, yeah, I have an idea what I want to do, but I didn't see it coming like this. So I was caught unaware. I was shocked. I panicked. And My brain was going in different directions. At the same time, I wanted my mind to be kind of calm, to really think. And then the next thing that was quite challenging was who to talk to.
Mm.
Who do I talk to? Everybody's busy with their stuff, like the football coaches are busy with their stuff. The teams are busy with their own players. Probably the people you had around you, maybe family, they were all looking up to you, like from Africa, depending on you. So who tells you what next to do? How do you get that guidance? So that was another big challenging stuff for me. So I had to try to start figuring this thing out by myself. So one of the first things my wife and I were talking about, like, okay, probably your experience and the lessons you've learned, probably will convert that into a book, which you can share with the next. So let's start working on that. So that was the first thing that helped me to start penning out my ideas, just talking about the whole journey. And so the book that, which you see, How to Become a Successful Professional Footballer, actually, that is the period that the book was inspired and was born. And my wife was the engineer of it, because she literally said, my husband, you've gone through a lot. You've had a journey. You've learned a lot. If you're going to give back to the next generation, you need to put it in a book. So she inspired it. She inspired the concept. And, I give a lot of credit to her, because she's like the brain behind it. I just put my experience on the book, but she's like the brain behind the book project.
Is she an author? It sounds like she's a great motivator.
No, my wife, she's a soon author. I think she's going to publish her own book, but she's a great thinker. She's an analyst. She studied business analyst. So she's more of a proper business analyst, a strategist. Her mind is always thinking about risk and solutions and solving problems. So her mind is always in that direction.
Right. And what's fascinating is it looks like she was right, based on, we're talking now, helping you to write down what you'd gone through, what your process was. What were the emotions you felt as you were writing that?
Oh, I don't know if a lot of players say this, but there was a lot of regrets while I wrote. I saw the gap that I saw while I was playing football. The whole picture, the picture became clearer. How there's a huge gap for us footballers and just athletes in general. And that's one of the things I put in my book. I talk about the balloon bubble. It became more evident because I had to step out of it to see it. When you're inside, you don't see it. So these are the emotions that were going on. I felt kind of stupid. I felt like a child, like like I felt like my ignorance was, there were a lot of aspects that I was ignorant about that was so exposed to me at that time. I started to see decisions that I should have taken that I didn't take, or things I should have known which I didn't know.
Can you give me an example?
Well, decision that I should have taken that I didn't take was, for example, I'm at Ajax. I'm in a situation where the coach doesn't put me in his program and I need to move. And my agent, we're working on a move. And I leave a club like Ajax. And because I want to stay active, the opening that comes out is a club in Turkey. And of course, Turkey league is quite also a good league. It's not a bad league. But I had no clue of how things work in Turkey. Mm-hmm. With the experience I'd already had in Europe, I should have done at least a finding of how Turkish leagues works. How do they pay salaries? How do the clubs behave? Speak to some players who have been there and give me their feedback and their experience to let me know if it was a good professional career choice that I was going to make. But I didn't do that. And so the club president, they flew all the way, and they had these players, which were players I knew, Milan Baros, Anton Ferdinand, and my former teammate, Ismail Asati, when Ajax together. They were in this team, and the salary was very interesting. And they flew with a private jet to come and meet me and talk, and it all sounded interesting. But again, those are just way to get you. But how does the club function? How do they work? Which is more real? That's the real thing you're going to meet afterwards. And so I didn't know this. The agent also didn't know that. But we took the deal and I went. Did I have a good experience in terms of just discovery adventure? Yes. But career-wise, it was not the best decision I made. I could have made another decision. I was not supposed to leave a top club like Ajax and move to Turkey when I'm still that young. I should have made a move to another club here in Europe and stay in that momentum at the top level of football. I think that step really affected my career. And I didn't play for a bigger club like Ajax after that, because after Turkey, I moved to Standard Liège, which is also a great club in Belgium, one of the biggest clubs in Belgium. It's not that bad, but I could have stayed a bit more higher in terms of competitiveness, probably Germany, probably France, probably another league, and Italy, another league like that. So that was one of those things that I reflected on. Another thing was just finances, just thinking about financial knowledge. So I came from Africa, and I had an agent, but the agent was a good guy. He was a good guy who built a good relationship with me. So he spoke African Pidgin. We have Pidgin in Africa. So he grew up in Ghana. So he could speak the Pidgin with me, and I felt related with him. So I focused on the emotional and relationship connection with him, and I did not measure it in terms of professional achievement. So in my book, I talk about different types of agent. I call novice agents. And a novice agent is someone who's very nice, who you have a good vibe with him. He's a nice person, but he can't deliver the results. He doesn't have the proper network. Because I played for Ajax, I was at my peak. He couldn't get me to a Premier League club. He couldn't get me to a Spanish league club. If he was an expert in what I call a shooter agent, like Pini Sahavi, those kind of agents. These guys, they don't talk much. They just make it happen. Like they make the business happen. So he didn't have that. And I could have made a quick decision after my first year with him, because he never gave me any professional advice for me during my career and for after my career. But it was good companionship. He was a good person. And I met a proper agent who spoke to me, and he gave me the first real advice, and I didn't take it. Because I didn't know it. I didn't know the value of it. What was the first real advice he gave to me? The moment he saw me, he said, "You need to take an insurance." "Do you have one?" I said, "No." He said, "You need to take an insurance." And in my mind, like, why do I need an insurance? No, I'm fit, I'm fine, I'm young, I don't need an insurance. So he's saying you need to take an insurance while you're playing, because anything can happen. And I didn't take it, I didn't follow it. So for me, those were things that when I looked at it, I was like, nah, if I meet a young player now, the moment he signs a contract, I'm telling him, go get an insurance now. So those are things that when I reflected on and look at even just to get a financial expert to advise me on my money, I didn't know that. I just thought, I'm from Africa, I have some money, I'm going to help the family. And if I can just build one or two property, that's fine. But to really, really explore the different opportunities through a real financial advisor, I didn't have that. So these are just some of the things when I look at it, I'll say there's regret, the level of ignorance I had. And also another thing I would just add quickly is like, I didn't know that when you get into a country, you're paying tax. And I was just paying the tax, but I had no clue how the tax system works. So the club, I had no clue. So if I get a letter, say you've paid the tax, but we realize that you still owe this, I don't understand what is happening. So I don't have no understanding of the system, of the tax milieu. Probably I needed to get my personal advisor, apart from what the club is doing, to advise me on the tax matter, and probably pursue it in myself. And probably there were other advantages for me to get back tax return, but I didn't know. So I didn't apply for them. So these are some of the different things that when I look back at, I was like, okay, there's a lot I didn't know. And there's a lot I would like to give back to the next generation of players, because I see that many of them, they're going to find themselves in the same bubble.
Yeah, and you're right. I think certainly people who have joined me on this show and others that I speak to off camera, you really get a sense it's difficult. In fact, it's challenging for them to know who to trust, who to speak to. And I think the point you've raised, which is a new one, is when is it right to speak to one of these advisors and bring somebody in? That's difficult for young players and families who've never been through this before.
Yeah, true. Quite difficult.
Yeah. And you know, and so for you, we're in the journey. You know, you've made the realization. You're writing you've started to, I guess, craft the book. You know, as you are now. You got back into playing football. You eventually found another club. But what had anything changed for you then? Did you have a different, not just appreciation of the game, but also what might come after? How were things different for you?
I was playing the game now with completely a different mindset. I was playing the game more as just to enjoy it to a certain level where I feel like, okay, I need to stop now. So there was no pressure for me playing. At the same time, because like I said, because of certain financial decision, in my mind, I was like, okay, probably I should look for a club where I can get that one last big contract or that best pay, you know. But just like I mentioned to you, once you already start to have a break in 6 months, you didn't play, and then you can see the graph dropping. So is the value also. And you cannot demand like when you were 24, 26, we were playing for Ajax. It's different. You can bring all of that up. It sounds nice, but that's the market is telling something different, and you can't change that. You have to face it. So you have to so I had to accept that. Listen, I'm not that player years ago. I have to go somewhere where I feel valued, but I also want to enjoy playing football. And I became more intentional about advising young players, talking to them about their finances. I became more intentional about telling them my story. I became more intentional about, okay, I'm going to create a course besides the book, because not all footballers are going to read books. I don't remember reading a lot of books when I was playing. And the average footballer probably did not really go to a certain level in education. So if I write a book, it's nice. A few footballers, probably about 2% will read it, maybe even less. So then I need to create a course. I need to create a course which is easier for me to talk to the players, engage them on these different topics that I'm going to put in the book, so that on a one-to-one basis, and give them visual pictures, and then probably take them through a management program with them, go along, help them in management, help them in branding, help them in what I call kind of defining your career path. What kind of career path do you want to have for yourself? In fact, I was even thinking the other day, I was talking to my wife, I said, the kind of way we will design our kids' career path in partnership with them, because we need them to validate, to give the opinion. I will prepare my kids to retire by 25 in football. Like if we put everything we need to put by 25, they should be in their mind ready to retire. Whatever they do afterwards, it's just they want to enjoy the game. But we will put a plan financially, career-wise, that we will make some of the best decision in the options we have, so that by 25, he knows, I'm just playing football. If a lot of money comes, fine. After 25, you shouldn't be chasing football for the money anymore. You should be playing for the joy. And you're not locked up into it. You can decide after 2 years and say, you know what, I have other things that I want to pursue. I'm still young. I want to put my energy there. So it doesn't become you don't get addicted to the game. You don't get addicted to the whole buzz around it. So these are the things I became a little bit more intentional while I was playing now, to advise young players to start to think about the different, not just conversations to have with players, but the tools to put together. And so I realized that a lot of players get sometimes the information, they get the conversation, but they don't have the tools. They don't have the capacity to do that.
So how did you realize that was something you should do?
Because I started reading and I realized I had the knowledge. I was informed about these things now, but I realized information is not enough. You need to get the tools.
Right.
So I remember when I was young, there were a lot of former footballers who told younger footballers about their mistakes. But still, these younger players still made the same mistakes, even though they knew about it. And if I come tomorrow on TV and a young player listens to me talk about my finances, about my days, they are like, oh, wow, I don't want to make that mistake. So he's gotten information, but it's not enough. He doesn't have the tools to make the decision that will give him the results that I'm talking about. That's why he needs the mentorship. That's why he needs the personal trainer to take him through and facilitate and give him the tools to make informed decisions, and why he needs to develop himself and build knowledge and capacity. Because if I tell you about investing in a business, you know the business exists and it's a good thing, but you don't have no clue. You need to go and study about the business. You need to do research. You need to read for yourself. And you need to take a whole training course about the business and understand how it works, the risks that are involved. And these are the capacities that if you do not build, is not enough for you just to get information.
Yeah.
And I saw it with many other players who, if you have conversation, they'll tell you, yeah, this guy said this to me. I saw this guy said this. So there's a lot of information out there. But they need to, it's just like football. You have football knowledge in your head, but you're not doing the practice on the field. There's the person that is training. In fact, you can be a professor in mechanics and explain how the car works. But the guy who stays in the garage all the time dealing with the engine, that's the person, when you need to go to for work, you go to him.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing for players. They need to get their hands dirty with the other things, with their finances, with this through rigorous training and building capacity.
Right.
From experience, that's what I discovered, that you cannot get it any other way.
And so how are you tooling this next generation of athletes? What journey are you on now?
Well, the journey that I'm on is that I realize being aware, because awareness is like that major thing. You can get information, but it doesn't still build awareness. So information means, yeah, this is good. But once you leave that space, you forget it. It's just information. But awareness is, you got information, the way it was presented. You're like, I need to do something. Now you want to do something because you're aware of it. And the next thing for me, I became aware of it, talking about it, exchanging, reading. I decided to go do a master's in sports management. So I had to get myself educated about it. I needed to be trained. I needed to get the expertise on how to go about it and understand the whole business. I've been playing football inside the field, but I didn't understand the business that was going around that football. Before you see the team playing on the field, there's a lot of work going on with people that are putting things together, organizing a lot of things before you come and play. And you don't have a clue about the tickets, about the money that is running, the different lounge. There's a whole different world beyond the world that you see just running around the grass on the pitch. So I needed to understand what was going on and how some people can play on the field and other people are collecting millions around them and they have no clue. And so this gives me a different edge and more desire to want to really help those who are playing on the field to become more aware of what is going on in their environment. So the first thing was to get my master's. Now I've got the master's. What should I do? I need to get into practice. I need to start engaging with players. So I started to talk with players on a real-time basis, and I had to categorize players into different groups. So I had the aspiring footballers. These are kids who are around 15, because 11, 12, they're too young to engage them with this. If it's possible with an academy, you can give the basic, but these kids should just be free. They should just be enjoying it. They don't need to have any pressure. From 15, then they really start to decide if I want to be a professional, because some can have it from 12, 11, but when they get to 16, 17, it changes. A lot of things change. Different situations can change for them. But from 15, 16, then you can have a conversation about what they want to achieve in their football. So this is active footballers, and then you can engage also with parents. So I do consulting for them, because a lot of kids at this age, since they're not responsible for many things financially, their parents are the ones involved. And certain decisions that the parents take can influence the kid big time. So think about it. My parents took a decision to go to a new city in Cameroon. And that new city I went to influenced my being more active in football. So that's a huge decision. I moved from UK back to Holland, and my kids are interested in football. My son is in Ajax. The other one is in another academy, because the football environment and culture is different, and I wanted my kids to develop. So that's why the parents need consultancy also. Many of them don't have a clue. And the young kids also need just guidance. Someone who has played before, who they can respect and can talk to them, because over time, it's boring for their parents to talk to them. They get tired every day they see them. And that's why you need another person who's an expert to help them. You have the second category, which I call the active footballers. These are the ones who are already in contract and they're already getting into the balloon bubble. So money is going to start coming, games is going to start coming, and their mind is going to be all on 100. kilometers per hour. How do you help these ones to give them an awareness of where they have entered, how they need to find a balance, and how they need to start preparing themselves before they get into the final group, which I call the transitioning footballers. So my awareness came when I was in the transitioning footballer, when I didn't have a club. And it could be an injury. It could be like missing a transfer window. It could be just going through a depression. It could be just going through a bad form at that age, or just going through a bad situation. So different things can cause you in that transition phase. And there are a lot of emotions, regret, anger, frustration that goes on there. Now, rather than allowing a lot of people, we need to manage, we need to create a platform for those in this category and help them. Because like I was saying, who do I talk to? So I wanted to create a platform through my mentorship program for people to tell footballers who are going through transitioning process, like, listen, I'm here, I've gone through it. I know what you feel. I've been there. So if you need someone to talk to me, and we will go through it together. You're not alone. You just need to know that someone has been there, has experienced it, and is willing to talk to you, and he understands what you're feeling at every level. And he needs to help you know you need to take your time. It's not a rush. It took you time over years to start feeling like this. It's going to take you some time to walk through this. If it's a rush, it's not going to work. So these are the three categories in terms of what I kind of found out that they need help, but these helps are different kind of help. So it's a kind of prevention and a kind of management work. For those who are still aspiring, you can guide them at a certain level, but those who are active, you can give them tools to prevent some of the regrets when they get to transition. And for those who are in transition, you can help them manage that transition period, the emotion, the depression, the pressure in a better way, that they can see that all hope is not lost. There's so much more. Like I love, that's why when I saw your podcast, Second Win, I was so excited, because it just typifies the player in the transition. Like, this is not over. You've had a lot of experiences. There's a second win for you. Just jump on it. Yeah, and you're not alone. You know, you've got a whole community of people who have experienced that, and they're transforming their experiences into a whole new success story. So this has been the things that I've been focused on through my company, 4P Baller, which is just the principles I put on the book. The first P of the 4P is just redefining purpose, giving meaning again. When you were playing, there was a reason why you were playing. Now where you are, you just need to find another new meaning for doing the things you're doing. What is a new reason you want to drive your life with? Because it is a definition of that why that would determines your drive. If you don't have drive anymore, then you need to find a new why. Why are you going to do the next things that you're going to do? For me now, my drive is just mentoring and helping young players with my experience. So I wake up every day, I'm excited about it. And when I speak, they can get the energy, the excitement that I want to see them equipped. I want to see them empowered. And so these are the three categories I look at, and I'm passionate about it. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and I can tell the excitement, you know, as we're talking. I've been talking, it's good. It really comes out very strongly. And so I guess as we come to the end of the conversation, it's very much, you just touched on it there. Now you have a business, 4P Baller, talk to me a bit about that.
So 4P Baller is the way I've kind of made it. 4P Baller is my day-to-day life. So I didn't make it like something extra on the side that I'm doing a special business somewhere. I made it in a way that I could feel home at it. So this is me expressing myself through a platform I call 4P Baller. I don't need to do no magic. Just like what I was already doing at the club, talking to young players, trying to help them around and guide them. I'm just putting it in a more organized framework. And for me, it is natural. It is something I do. I love it. I flow with it. And so I have the consulting part of 4P Baller, which is for parents, which is also for young players. Then I have the mentorship part, which is for active footballers. And I have the transitioning part, which is to work with mostly football federation. For example, I checked with the KNVB, the Dutch Football Federation. They don't have a program which they can say, all footballers who are going to stopping professional football into other things. We have a course, we have a mentorship program for you. We have someone who can talk with you, who is available if you need to speak. And I tell you, I was shocked. I spoke to a lot of my former players, my former teammates who played together. And every one of them, the symptoms of the things they said, how they felt was depression, was mental. They were going through mental health challenge. Accumulated unresolved things during their active period were buried in them. And then now that they're not playing football, they're getting, those emotions are starting to show up and a panic attack. I was talking with a daughter of a former professional footballer who became a coach. And she explained to me, because I try to get data from every person I speak to. And she said, I don't know how you're doing it, but when my dad stopped playing football, he was so angry. He was so grumpy, but we couldn't figure out what was going on with him. It's like everything that he had gone through and masking. And the thing is, active professional football can become an escape, can become a cave. So I'm upset. I go and play football. I sweat and I feel energy pumped up, and I just brush over that. And the next time I go play again. So it's like a hideout. And when you take out that hideout from a professional footballer, he needs to face the real emotions now. It's in his face. And these are things he's allowed for time, and they become really rooted in his mind and in his emotion. And dealing with them becomes a whole conflict. And the exposure and feats and different kinds of forms of actions and reactions starts to show up in that person. And he himself cannot recognize what is happening to him. He can't even explain what's happening to him because he has no clue. That it has to be traced to things that happened while he was playing. And until he goes back and have someone speak to him and start unpacking things and say, this thing you're doing and why you're feeling this way is because it's traced from here. So we need to go back and we address those things and give it perspective. And you get the lesson out of it and be happy you went through it. And now you're going to tell yourself, you know what? Because I've gone through it, I want to help other people. You know, so 4P Baller for me, it's about that, working with football federations, working with young players, working with parents. And above all, I've got kids who are playing football. What better way to be able to just create a platform where I can help my own kids? I take them to training. I have conversations with them one-on-one, and I try to balance being a mentor and just being a dad. And that's a huge thing for me. Like, I'm really speaking the moment where I'm a mentor, and I don't impose mentorship on them. I allow them to seek mentorship from me. And it's a huge thing I've learned. And I had to do a research when I was writing all the mentorship course. And I saw a lot of top athletes do a testimony in interviews. And they said, it was very difficult for me to coach my child or my daughter or my son, because they are like, it's annoying. They don't want to hear. So those who are smart look for a coach that the child can respect, that the child can listen to. And then they will pick in things. And I've got 3 sons who are playing football. My first son is very calm, he's very open. I can critique him, I can have conversation with him. The second one is a no-go. He is not listening. Now, even though he knows you're right there, he's not listening. So I'm looking for someone who's training with him. And that person told me he's the best. He's working hard, he's intense. But if he's with me, I tell him go run, he's not going to do it because I told him. Even though he knows it's something what he's going to do. So these are the things I'm balancing. And then the third one, he's the guy who's always wanting to learn. He's the one asking me questions. Dad, how was your experience when you played your first game? How was this? So he's the one trying to pull the mentorship out of you. And so this is the lesson I'm learning, how to create the balance. And the finality for me, especially for my boys, is that they need more of a dad than a mentor and a coach. And that's what I really want to be for them. I want to let them to know that if they make it in football, I'm proud of them. If they don't become professional footballers, I'm still proud of them. As long as they gave their best, they know that I'll always have my support. So this is also 4P Baller. It's about also a family legacy, about raising young kids, young boys who are interested in football, but they are going to be professional footballers who are all-round balanced, not just on performance, on playing and on signing contracts. No, it's not about that. It's about being a full, mature human being who has a life beyond football.
That's powerful, man. That's big. And challenging. I got to say, it's challenging. Being a father of boys playing football and giving them the freedom and space to simply enjoy the game, and you know, and take their potential, take their appetite to wherever that should naturally be, and do that with a smile on their face. So a difficult job, and I say this because of my 3 sons as well. So I can enjoy that.
Sometimes I have to hold myself, like he's in the field doing something and I want to scream like, you need to, but then I have to hold myself like, okay, no, just let the guy do his stuff.
You've got to be, we have to be the quietest person on the sideline, just to emphasize. Now, and look, thank you very much. I got perhaps maybe, you know, another question for you just to close really. And it's, you know, so as you, and I guess it's in your book, or it's, as the way you've written, it feels like it's very much a memoir, you know, of many things. So when you look at that and think of that next generation coming up, what are the key things that, you know, you think it's important for them, especially in the transition phase? What do you think is important for them to consider?
Well, I think it's so crucial for the next generation of players to consider before they get to the transition phase. Like while they are still active, it's so important to have certain foundation, certain bases. If you don't have those bases, you're going to hit the crisis wall when you get to the transition. Nobody's exempted from it. In the concept of the 4P that I put, so the 4P, like I said, is purpose, is performance, it's a prosperity, and it's personality. So for me, it's a kind of model to use to measure where you have issues you need to work on and to find balance. So every one of us needs to work on one of those things. It's either you need to work better on your money knowledge, money education, or probably you need to work better on your personality, or you need to work better on your performance, mindset, your drive, or you need to work better on defining your why. Why are you doing the things you're doing? And I think these bases, why these young people are still active, is so important. And that is why I'm passionate to drive it, that they are really my major target audience. If I can get a hold of these players, I would do it. So when I was playing, and I think a lot of players are playing, there's this concept, there's this belief, there's this lie that when you're active and playing football, you don't have time for other things. Like the game is so intense that you just want to rest. It's true, but at the same time, it's very false. Because when I reevaluate myself and I evaluate some players, the time they spend on PlayStation, the time they spend on social media, the time they spend just hanging out with friends, I told them, listen, I was talking to one young man, I said, if you would just give an hour every week to something else that will benefit you after your football, in 2 weeks, you would have given 2 hours. In 3 weeks, 3 hours. In a month, you would have given 4 hours. In 2 months, you would have given 8 hours on something that you wanted to do after you stop football, which is building you up. And it's not too much to ask. And this is the least of time I'm really saying, just an hour a week. Mm. But you know what? That's a difficult one, because if you don't see how valid that is, you will not give that hour. It is easy not to relax on a PlayStation because it's cool and those things are convenient. But that's why I work with those who are serious. I work with those who can anticipate and say, you know what, if I don't take this, they need to understand the consequences of not taking that actions. It's serious. It's like really serious. And that's why the guilt I felt when I started to do the analysis, I don't want him to feel that guilt. I want him to feel probably other guilt, but not that kind of guilt, because it's a guilt that hangs around for a while. You need to take time to wash it off. And it saps your energy. It saps your drive for life to do things. And I don't want them to go through that process. So if I were to say something, this particular group of young people who are active footballers, they need to plug themselves into a mentorship program. They need to get a mentor, get a financial mentor, get a career mentor. You have an agent is good, but an agent is not a football mentor. He can get you a club. You need to get a financial mentor. You need to also get yourself educated. Now, education is there's a lot of materials out there. On YouTube, you can see videos for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that summarizes certain concept. And it's not going to take you long, you know. You can spend 3 hours just watching on different videos on Instagram and on TikTok. But yeah, just 15 minutes of a meaningful video that will give you perspective for what you want to do can completely over time build a different capacity. So I would say to them, they should get a mentor, because the thing is, when you're an active footballer, it's difficult to be accountable. And that's what you need to get to help you at that phase. You need accountability. You need to accept to be accountable, because you're playing, you're earning money, you can do what you want to do, you can go where you want to go. There's so much liberty that you need to manage, but accountability gives you direction to your liberty. So I would talk about accountability through a mentor, a financial mentor, career mentor, just personality mentor, someone to help you on personal development, how to become a better you. And also I would say business mentor, because whether you like it or not, while you are playing, your value is high. Today we have values for players, Ryan. You know, there are market values for players.
That's
so
right.
Probably when the players don't see it, you see yourself on the field, but the way you're seen is as a commodity. And that's why your price can go up, can down, and up and down. So if you if you can think like, my price can only move while I'm active, what do I do about it? How can I influence that? What are the other things that I can put around myself that can prepare me for after career? Jordan could have never become the player he is if while he was active, there were not some certain actions he took in sponsorship, in signing contracts that influence him till today. We know what Jordan is making. And for me, those are the things that while you're active, there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of platform that you may never get when you hit transition. And that's why I'm really pushing that they should get this financial education, mentorship, personality, branding education, so that it would really help them. And for those who are in the transition phase who didn't get this help, but they are already there, should. Probably if you're in Australia, you need to get in touch with Ryan on his To Win podcast. I think Ryan is going to help you a lot, because he's been talking to players, he's been gathering data, and I'm sure he also have mentorship tools that can help you, to scale through this process. And if you're in Holland or just in Europe, you can always check my website, 4pballer.com, and get in touch with me. And the person in the transition, you can go through by yourself. By yourself, you've accumulated a lot of things that have brought you to transition, but don't try to go through transition by yourself. You're only going to hurt yourself. Get help, get a psychologist, get a mentor, go to talk to people who have the experts in this, and let them help you. Even start redefining a whole career path. I was talking to an agent one time, and he thought I was joking. I said, every professional player needs an agent even much more when he's doing transition than when he's active. And it was very funny to the guy. I said, yes. I said, because the agent is the person that's going to help the player who is losing his value on the field start to see value that he has accumulated all this while, and how they can redirect him into probably as a giving commentary on a TV, as a pundit, or becoming a podcast host, because he's watched this guy throughout the guy's career from outside, and he's been around seeing what this guy can do, his way of thinking, his way of talking. And he's the one to start helping this young guy create opportunities. Like, oh, I'm going to put you on this TV channel to talk. I'm going to put you on this platform. The guy needs it even more, because while he's there, while he's doing transition, he's struggling with identity. I'm not playing football anymore, which was kind of where I was getting myself, self-validation. People are claiming me. Now it's gone. What else can I do? And then the identity crisis comes in. So the agent or the management can really help a player during that time to do that. So those are some of the brief things I would say. Take responsibility. It's not over. It's not over. You just had one phase of your life. The football window is quite short. That window is closed. There's a second win for you. Just like Ryan podcast says, there's a second win for you. Jump on that win. Connect with Ryan, connect with me, connect with different institutions that can help you. If you don't search, you will not find. Don't hide in your corner thinking the world has crumbled on me, I'm all alone. Just go on YouTube. Probably when you check former footballer story, you will see Ryan's podcast showing all over the place. And if you go to your federation, don't be shy. You played football in that environment. You've contributed to the football in the country. The federation or the football body there actually is there to serve you. Go there, ask questions if they have something that can help you, and be proactive so that you can get yourself running on a second course.
Eyong, thank you very much for joining me. That was brilliant.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It was nice being with you on the podcast.
Thanks. Let me stop recording. Thank you, man. That was enjoyable.